When it comes to video games in the year 2025, there have been a lot of big releases. From Monster Hunter Wilds, Death Stranding 2, and even the release of a brand new Nintendo console, bringing us the likes of Mario Kart World and the admittedly underwhelming Donkey Kong Bonanza, and that's not even mentioning the more recent releases of Borderlands 4, Ghost of Yotei, or even The Outer Worlds 2. And how could we forget the big surprise hit of the year with Clair Obscura Expedition 33. With all of those games out this year, there has been no shortage of games to play and talk about throughout the entirety of the year. And yet, despite that, there is one game that people cannot shut the f up about, and that game is Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I have never seen a fan base more loud and proud about a video game than the fan base of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. You'll find them everywhere. In the comment section of any game released this year, they'll be like, yeah, but have you played Kingdom Come Deliverance 2? Everywhere. Legitimately everywhere. I see them everywhere. And I tell you what, your persistence, the persistence of this fan base, it's worked. I've given in. I am interested in checking out this game because it's gotten to the point where I've heard so much praise from its fan base for so long that at this point, it just kind of feels like I'm being negligent if I ignore it. Despite how some of those people in the fan base may come across as bad actors, there's still more people who are just like, hey, it's a really good game that you should go check out. And yeah, okay, I'll check it out. You guys claim it's like one of the greatest games of all time, one of the most immersive role-playing games of all times, and that's my favorite genre. And it's one thing if a fan base of a game says that, it's another thing when the critical reception backs up those claims. And Kingdom Come Deliverance 2 has both of those things. But before I can get to Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, I felt the need to go back to 2018 and play through Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. Based on everything I've heard about the storytelling of these games, kind of sounds important to know the story going into part 2. So the completionist I am, I have finished Kingdom Come Deliverance 1, and I got some things to say, so I'm gonna make a video about that. You know, that's what happens here. And so basically what this video is, it's gonna be my brief review of Kingdom Come Deliverance in 2025 as I prepare myself to play Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull over this video real quick. This is me as I'm editing the video, and I'm sure as you can see based on the runtime, there is nothing brief about this. So, hey, surprise, this is me soft launching the return of the Overdue review. And if you are unfamiliar with what the Overdue review is, it's two things. I spend the first half of this video talking about the game as if I am just reviewing it, and the second half of the video is me talking about the game in a more story spoiler capacity, because as this review is overdue, I'm sure many of you have already played this game and would like to have further discussion about some of your favorite moments in what could be some of your favorite games. And so now, without further ado, here is the Overdue review for Kingdom Come Deliverance. When it comes to starting a conversation about Kingdom Come Deliverance in 2025, I feel like the best way to start that is by talking about how painful of an experience this game was. Probably the most painful video game experience I've ever had, where the goal of Kingdom Come Deliverance was to deliver the most immersive role-playing experience possible. And in doing that, they've made the game as realistic as possible, where the combat system isn't as easy as just swinging a sword until all the enemies around you are down, or aiming a bow and arrow isn't as straightforward as it usually would be, to even saving the game. You can't save the game unless you drink a consumable that you have to buy or make yourself. And if you want to make it yourself, you have to make sure you follow the recipe to do so, just so you can save. And also, if you want to follow that recipe, you gotta make sure you know how to read, because you start this game also not knowing how to read. Basically, what this game does is it makes every single thing you've ever done in any other video game not fun. And it makes it the most monotonous task ever. And yet, despite that, this game's kind of good. It's kind of good. They got something going here. This game is not easy. It's also not overly challenging. It's just there is a learning curve because this game is unlike pretty much any other game I've played or any other game on the market at the moment. Nothing is given to you for free. There is no hand-holding in this game. You'll get tutorials that will tell you how to do something, but those things that it's telling you to do, it doesn't go in depth and it doesn't help you in any way. It just lets you know this is how it works. Get used to it in this game. This game is going to challenge you in every single aspect imaginable. And because of that, because everything is an uphill battle in this game, every little success you have feels incredible. Think about those moments you have in a Souls game where you beat this boss that has been kicking your ass for like an hour straight or maybe a whole day.
It couldn't be me though. Like, I one try every boss in all of these games, so couldn't be me.
I get the feeling you don't believe me when I say that, which is weird. I don't know why you wouldn't. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I spent an entire day on a Souls boss. You know that feeling you get once you've finally overcome that boss fight that you've been struggling with for so long? You know that little bit of rush, that adrenaline you get, and that pump you feel afterwards? You know that feeling? You know the one? Kingdom Come Deliverance is essentially you microdosing on that feeling for 30 hours straight. While succeeding in Kingdom Come Deliverance never necessarily reaches those same highs as some of those Souls games, the overall experience, there is still enough of that to keep me going throughout the entire game. And not only that, the story, which is what I came here for, to prepare for part 2, is really good and compelling. And I don't even just mean that like the story scenarios are compelling and intriguing in their own right. They are. But what I really mean is like the dialogue. Every line of dialogue is like the most dialogue possible. A lot of other games I feel like will try to condense as much as possible, whether it be for budgetary reasons or just because they're too afraid of letting players go too long without pressing a button. Kingdom Come Deliverance doesn't care about that and really lets you sit with these characters for longer periods of time and gives them more character moments in these cutscenes that are lengthy. And if either of these fields were worse, if the story were worse, or if the gameplay were worse, this game would suck. But I feel like the story and the gameplay of this game go hand in hand so well to keep you pushing through. Where there were times where the gameplay gets so frustrating and I get so annoyed with going back an hour in progress and having to redo things and over again until I can finally overcome those things. But the desire to see the next chapter in Henry's story kept me going and kept me persevering through those frustrating gameplay moments. And in a similar fashion to a Souls game, I play a lot of Souls games and I really like Souls games. So if I'm comparing anything to a Souls game, that's like really high praise, just to be clear. I understand that they're very different, but it's high praise coming from me, I would say. But in a similar vein to a Souls game, whenever you fail, you know that it's because you messed up, not because the game was doing some bullshit. It was on you. I very much feel the same way with Kingdom Come Deliverance, because as I've already mentioned, I am playing this game for the story, to get to part 2, to see what the hype around that game is about. So I was rushing this game and I got my ass kicked several times over because I tried to rush this game. This game is not meant to be rushed. I still did it in 30 hours, which I think is kind of record time. Not like record, but it seems like it's pretty low hour count comparatively to other people. This game wants you to take your time and immerse yourself in this world, which is why I'm extremely excited about part 2, because I'm not gonna rush that in any sense of the word, and I'm just gonna enjoy that game. And yeah, because I did only mainline this game, I understand I have missed a lot of side content, if not all of it, but the game in its main story felt pretty fulfilling up until the end, which I will talk about later in a spoilers section, because I Don't want to spoil this game, even though I know that the part 2's out and it's also like a really old game at this point, but still. But yeah, overall, the frustrations of this gameplay do not overshadow how good this game ended up being. But there were some oddities I still take with the overall realistic, immersive approach. Namely, that saving system. Of all of the systems in the game, I completely understand in the actual gameplay, it's realistic and it is painful to get through. But when you get through it, it feels real good. But what I don't understand in any way is the saving system, where you have to have the consumable to save your game. Or you go to sleep and you can save your game that way, or exit and save. It's stupid. And periodically, the game will save like at the end of a quest or at an important part of a quest. Either way, I think the saving system in this game is just stupid. It doesn't make any sense. I understand what they're getting at in the sense of they want to make your choices matter and you have to really think about what you're going to do because it could cost you hours of gameplay if you don't save often enough by having the consumable to save, or if you aren't sleeping enough to get regular checkpoints on your own. And that sounds great, but where this gets real stupid is the fact that there are autosaves, and the autosaves isn't the problem. It's just the save in general. There are moments in quests where you'll do something the wrong way that ends up with you getting into a combat scenario that can be very difficult, and then you'll die in this combat scenario, and then you'll be like, oh, well, I shouldn't do that. So you reload the save, the autosave that the game gave you that took place before that fight. That makes you just go, okay, well, I know what not to do. I know what I'm not going to do now. The example I'll give here for that specifically is there's the character Ulrich, which minor spoilers, if you know, you know. There's this character of Ulrich who I've gotten to help me clear out this cave of bandits. And there's like 5 or 6 bandits out there, which would be very difficult to 1v5 these guys because the combat system does not make this easy at all. The combat system, I hate it. And now I just want to jump in right here as I'm editing this video and going back and recording footage for this video. I think I cracked it. I think I finally cracked the combat system. So in the gameplay that you have seen, I probably look like I'm very competent with the combat system, and I think I am now, because I realized the shield is a crutch. You should not be using a shield if you want to be effective in combat, is what I think I've learned at least. Because once I unequipped that shield, I started hacking and slashing and things felt better, and I took on 3 enemies at once, and I was like, whoa, where was this guy the other 28 hours I played this game? What happened? It was bizarre. Also, I would like to throw in the combat system in large battles can be stupid just because all you really have to do is strategically place yourself next to some characters with plot armor and they'll take care of the rest for you, which is what I did when I was playing the game the first time through, and then I displayed again when I was recording this footage. But yeah, back to the story with Ulrich and how the save system is kind of stupid. So I had the help of Ulrich, and he was really kicking ass out there, drawing attention away from these bandits and making the game kind of easy in this moment because he took a lot of attention and I swiped them in the back and he got some of them too. It was good. It was good stuff. So we go into this cave and we meet the bandit leader, and then Ulrich is like, I have to kill this guy, and I'm like, no, don't kill this guy. And then Ulrich goes, all right, I have to kill you then because you're getting in my way. And I'm like, oh crap, I have to fight Ulrich. And then Ulrich kicks my ass. And I'm like, there's no way I'm going to beat Ulrich. He's in full plate armor. And I suck at the combat system. I never got good at the combat system. Ever. I never did. I never felt like I was doing anything. So I was like, ooh, okay. Reload the save. We're outside the cave again. Ulrich's here fighting all the other guys. I just let the other guys kill him. And then Ulrich's dead. And then I go fight the bandit leader on my own. And he is just a guy in cloth. So it's a lot easier to take him out than a guy in full plate armor. And in that moment, I was like, the save system is really stupid because it just made me learn what was going to happen and then adapt to that instead of having anything I do matter. But that's minor and I don't actually care. It just felt like it was a moment that really went against what they were going for with that whole save system. And on the topic of this whole realism ethos of the game, I do want to make it very clear if anyone is like kind of off put by some of these systems and how they just sound unfun and difficult for difficulty's sake, the game is still very much a video game in a lot of ways. There were a lot of things that they could have made more difficult, but they didn't for the sake of gameplay. So things like your horse just appearing next to you, or certain skills allowing you to de-emphasize the need to eat and sleep, things like that help streamline the game in a sort of way that isn't given to you from the start because you still have to earn it. You know what I mean? So if you are a little off-put by those systems, don't worry about it too much in the beginning, because by the end of the game, you'll level up and you won't have to really worry about these things as much as you did in the beginning. The hardest the game will ever be is at the beginning because of all of these systems hitting you all at once for the first time. But that's just talking about the game from like a systems perspective. Talking about the game from a story perspective though, and it's good stuff, you know? You start off the game as a lowly blacksmith's son, and you work your way up in the world. And it's awesome. The progression of not even knowing how to wield a sword at all, basically, to at the end, kind of doing at least a little bit of damage to people. It was kind of cool. And going from clothing to at the end wearing full plate armor, it's sick. And NPCs will notice that you're wearing plate armor, and they'll call you a knight even though you're not a knight, but don't tell them. Don't tell them I'm not a knight, you know what I mean? Be cool. It's really cool how reactive the NPCs are. And this game is very impressive. Like, I've said all of those things about this game, and the budget for this game that I've seen online was like $40 million. This was a Kickstarter game. And going into this, I didn't know that. So I was able to forgive the game for a lot of its oddities, where it might be some strange voice acting or stiff animations. While this did come out in 2018 and some of the games from 2018 look pretty goddamn good, this game still manages to like comfortably sit amongst them. And it's really impressive. I really have a lot of respect for the team of developers that made this game. Not necessarily the game director, because, well, to put it simply, he says a lot of things on the internet that maybe he probably shouldn't be saying. And honestly, those things were keeping me away from this game for the longest time, but I rationalized it by thinking, okay, well, that's just one dude. The entire team put a lot of work into this. Let's check it out. People love it. And yeah, hey, you guys are right. But as I sit here recording this video, I am starting to realize everything else I want to say about this game has to do with the story and the spoilers therein. So if you haven't finished this game, hey, get out of here. Go play it. It's pretty good. It's worth your time. Well, actually, I take that back. By all means, if you just want to play a great game, a great immersive RPG, then go for it. This game's great, without a doubt. Play this game if you want to play this game. But if you are only playing this game for the sole purpose of getting the story you need to play part 2, then that's where I would probably say you don't really need to play it. If that's your sole purpose on playing this game because you want to get to part 2, then maybe you don't have to play it. Just go watch a recap video and you'll do just fine, for reasons I'll get into right now as we start to spoil this game.
It looks like it's all over.
Not by a long shot. It won't be over until we get this mess cleared up.
And catch that bastard. How could we let him go?
Would you rather we killed him? Even if it meant Lady Stephanie and I died too?
No, of course not. But what was to stop us from killing him after the exchange?
Honor?
Honor?
If the word of honor of a nobleman could not be trusted, then he would never have agreed to the exchange.
Okay, so I want to talk about this game's story. Specifically, I want to talk about the ending of this game, or the lack thereof. This game doesn't have an ending. It just stops. And that was the most baffling thing I had ever seen in any video game. This game has done so many things to my brain, where it's the most painful experience, and it's also the most baffling ending I've ever seen in a video game. This comes from a little bit of outside knowledge of knowing where part 2 starts, because like I gotten curious about what part 2 is, so I've seen like the start of that game. I don't remember it because I've stayed away from it since I started playing part 1 because I don't want spoilers, but I remember that part 2 starts with your character delivering a letter, right? And so the end of this game, the end of part 1, or the epilogue, is talking about the lords drafting a letter to send to this other castle far away. It's a 3 days ride away, but it's far. And I was like, isn't that what the second game starts? What are we doing? And then the game ends. We go off, we leave the map, and the game just ends. It was so bizarre. The most bizarre ending I think I've ever experienced in any piece of media, where the game could have just ended. This is technically post-credits, so whatever, I guess. But they're starting a new story here. They're starting this new adventure, and they're putting it at the end of this game and being like, and here they go off on this adventure. This new adventure. It's the end of this game, though. You'll see where they go in 7 years in the sequel, which is just so baffling. Thank God I didn't play part 1 when it came out or any time earlier. I'm so happy I waited to play this game until part 2 is already out, because I cannot imagine getting to the end of this game and having nothing resolved. Because at the start of the game, Henry's village gets burned down. His mom and dad are killed by this bald guy with a mustache, or so we think it's his dad, at least, you know. And he made this sword with his dad to give to Sir Radzig. And the sword gets stolen, and the guy who murdered your family is off to the wind, gone. So that happens at the beginning. You get your sword stolen, and you're seeking revenge against this bald guy with a mustache. And neither of those things get resolved by the end of the game. There was the quote-unquote twist where it's Istvan Toth, who is apparently the bad guy. A character who, when they revealed he was the bad guy, I was like, I don't remember this guy. And apparently that's how everyone felt in the moment, because I have been looking around online because I'm like, I can't be the only person, right? I'm not insane. I'm not going crazy. We all feel this way, right? And yeah, it's kind of like the common consensus when he was revealed to be the bad guy. Most people didn't recognize him. I certainly didn't recognize him. And I played this game in 30 hours. So you'd think I would. It's a lot shorter than these 80 hours playthroughs I've heard of. And it's just like, okay, you're the bad guy. Okay. I can wrap my head around the finale being a duel with you where I win the sword back and kill you. And I thought that's what we were leading to, where Sir Radzig is revealed to be Henry's father, and then at the end of the game there's like this whole hostage exchange. I'm skipping around a lot because you already know, but these are the things I want to talk about specifically. We get to the part where they're like, okay, we have your father, Sir Radzig. It's shocking. He's your dad. And we all are fine with it. We kind of move on with our lives. We don't really talk about it that much. And I just accept it. Whatever. Okay. Weird. The game story kind of does fall flat in a lot of ways, specifically in like this third act area, I would say. I do wonder if they were hoping to tell more story here, but budgetary reasons restricted them. And so they're like, we'll just put that in part 2. Don't worry about it. Because it's definitely like this third act area where it feels the most rushed compared to the rest of the game.
That was honestly really incredibly well paced, because this game starts you off as Henry, the lowly blacksmith's son, of course. So when you are thrust into this world of lords and knights and things like that, people don't really look to you as a trustworthy person, or as a competent person, rather. So throughout the course of the game, pretty much every single quest you do becomes more and more important, with you starting out by just tagging along during an investigation. And then because you solve the investigation, they're like, okay, this Henry guy, let's maybe give him some more important tasks. Also, by the way, the investigation stuff, really well done. I probably should have mentioned this in the non-spoiler part, but it actually felt like I was doing investigative work, talking to people all around the towns. It was just a like area to search, or as opposed to waypoints being like, go talk to this specific person. Or how following trails of blood was legitimately following a trail of blood and not just following the highlighted ground to find the next clue. You know what I mean? Those things that games do all the time. This does it in a more realistic way, which is what it's going for, of course. But yeah, every quest you do becomes more important than the last, which gains you more and more trust amongst the lords and these knights. And it's a really cool thing where you remember the fact that people were talking down to you often. And then by the end of the game, they're talking to you as an equal. You're in these meetings, planning things. To also, by the end, being in the room where political conversations are happening and you're a part of it. There's a really cool sense of progression throughout this entire game. To rewind a little bit though, there's the moment where Ishvan Toth is like, okay, we're gonna drop off Radzig at this location and we'll be off and on our way. And so I totally thought we're gonna get to that location and he was gonna be standing there either with Sir Radzig at knife point, like, hey, I'll still kill him right here, right now. And then I'd end up dueling him instead, something like that. And then earn the sword back from him, which would be an ending. It would have been an ending to what this game started as. The game started as Henry trying to get his sword back and seeking revenge for his parents. And I can understand the revenge part getting pushed off to the sequel because, things happen. But at least getting the sword back at the end of this game would have felt like a resolution in its own right. But we didn't even get that. What a bizarre ending. Something I did like about the ending, though, that I'm sure some people probably take some issue with, is the fact that Sir Hanush, by the end of the game, negotiates with Ishvan Toth to release the hostages in exchange for his freedom. And the only thing that they have to ensure this negotiation goes through, that this deal goes through, is Sir Hanush's honor as a lord and a knight. And I do find it very telling that it's Henry and Sir Hans who are immediately questioning that, because these are the ones who aren't necessarily in all of these political meetings and dealings where they have to deal with a nobleman's honor because they haven't had to deal with that themselves. So they're the ones who are a little bit against it. And I feel like that sets up what potentially could be their character arcs in the sequel. I don't know anything, of course, not yet at least. I'll get to part 2 when I get to part 2, but it does allow for more character growth to come out of Henry, from him being a lowly blacksmith's son to turning out to being a nobleman's bastard son. So where do you go from there? And I think in the sequel, Henry and Hans, for that matter, will learn the importance of a nobleman's honor and how to keep their word. Supposing that's the way you play the game, of course. And another thing that I really liked about the story is that monastery mission. I mean, come on, I wasn't gonna go this whole video without mentioning the monastery quest. Come on. Where, admittedly, I do think I ended up skipping like probably half of this quest by accident. My bad. The monastery quest, of course, you already know because you're in the spoiler section. The quest where you have to infiltrate the monastery and find out who amongst these new novices is the person that you're trying to kill so that you can get access to Ishvan's camp and all of that jazz. It's a really cool quest where you have to first find out who it is. And this is what I mean when I say I accidentally skipped like half of this quest, because the tour guide was showing me around the place and then I immediately said to him, hey man, I gotta find this one guy. And he's like, you should probably go see about this one other brother. He's probably the guy you're looking for. And I was like, yeah, you're probably right. And then the next dialogue option that popped up for me was, I know it's you. And I was like, yeah, why not? I'm going to say that. What's the worst that could happen? And then it was him. So I skipped like half of that quest, but it was still really cool, the rest of it. And when I first got to that quest, I was like, this sucks. It's really just bringing this whole story to a complete halt. But once we were actually in the monastery and we had to follow all these routines and gather supplies in between these routines or during these routines so that we can make our escape, it really made it feel that much cooler. And I know that the way that I went about this quest is one of several ways to go about this quest, which can be said for a lot of these questline structures. And then one other thing I did want to just touch on real quick is that this is a very mature game with mature themes and is depicted in a very realistic and brutal way in some times. So I did find it a little odd that by the time the credits rolled, there were like 0 casualties throughout the game. Beyond the initial attack on Skalitz, everyone got out pretty much scot-free, which I just feel like is shocking considering how brutally realistic this game depicts itself in medieval times, which I just thought was weird. Oh, and completely random, just wanted to throw this out there, by the way. There's this side quest where you can have sex with Lady Stephanie, Divish's wife, and that never came up again. It seems like the type of thing that would have come up at some point, at any point, any acknowledgement that happened. It just didn't. Truly and honestly, this video happened because I just wanted to talk about how there was no ending to this game and how bizarre that was.
that there wasn't an ending in this game. And because of that, I made a video. And I hope you liked it, because this is the end of it. And now, while in the moment I thought it was insane that it didn't have an ending, a part of me is also like kind of glad that a lot of these really cool resolutions haven't happened yet, because I personally am not the biggest fan of the graphical fidelity of the first game. So imagining these resolutions happening in the sequel where things look prettier and the gameplay is more refined, I think it's gonna pay off in a better way than it would if it happened in this first game. And that's me being selfish a little bit, because I don't have to wait 7 years to play part 2. I can play it as soon as I want. And I imagine it's gonna be really good, because like I said, I really did enjoy this game. It was a really good game. So imagining a sequel where all of these systems are just refined and expanded upon, I think we're in for a really good time. Like you guys have already told me, I'm in for a really good time. So I'm excited to get there. I keep itching to start part 2. Hi, this is me from the editing chair. Third time's a charm. How's it going? I will say that in the process of editing this video, I did have to see the trailer for part 2, and holy shit, dude, I didn't know games could look like that. That looks incredible. That's got to be one of the best trailers I've ever seen from a video game. But anyways, past me, what was it that I wanted to do before I started part 2? But before I do that, I do want to finish Death Stranding 2, because that's another long game that I haven't finished, and I do want to break up part 1 and part 2 a little bit. I don't want to get sick of the game, you know? So I'm giving it a little bit of space. I'm letting myself miss Kingdom Come for a little bit, so that when I finally start playing part 2, I'll enjoy it that much more. And I gotta tell you, I already am kind of itching to play it. Like I'm kind of just thinking like, what if I just started it? What if I just looked at it, see what it looked like, you know? See where the story goes. I'm so fascinated to see how the story continues and how the story concludes, because I saw like a blog post somewhere where they said that like, oh, with this last DLC of Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, we have fulfilled the vision of this story. So that's exciting to know that we are getting a conclusion one way or another when it comes to part 2, which I'll probably do a video on, because people love Kingdom Come and I guess I like it, you know? I like Kingdom Come. Part 2 will determine whether I love it, which I feel like it has determined that for a lot of other people out there. So I'll probably make a video on that too, but honestly, if I'm to play that game the way it should be played and take my time and really immerse myself in that world, it's gonna be a while. That video probably won't be out until 2026, quite honestly. So stay tuned for that if you're into that. But yeah, that's really all I wanted to say on Kingdom Come Deliverance 1. Kind of a weird video, really scatterbrained, I feel like, compared to most of my videos, which are just slightly less scatterbrained, but still scatterbrained nonetheless. That's kind of what I do here. But that'll do it for this video. Thanks for stopping by. If you liked it, make sure you prove by hitting the like button, and leave some comments talking about Kingdom Come Deliverance and what you think of this game, and how excited should I be about playing part 2. Things like that, because I am excited. I'm looking forward to it. But that'll do it. Until next time, as always, stay safe and play some video games.